Hello everyone, this is Serious Trivia, and today we finally have some more Warhammer 3 news. Now, there has been a flood of Warhammer news coming out in forms of blogs, game mechanics, roster reviews, and we haven't really covered much of that. And the reason is, I've been waiting for something like this, where we actually get some in-game footage. Now, of course, all the footage we're getting today are development in progress, as noted by the watermark on the top left, and everything is not controlled by me. These are footage that is pre-recorded by Creative Assembly and given out to us content creators that are in the partner program with Creative Assembly as a courtesy to show off the game. And there is a bunch of videos out there for all your favorite Total War Warhammer content creators, and everyone can pick and choose different ones that they want to focus on. For me in particular, I am most interested in Cathay, and I picked 3 battle videos that has something to do with Cathay, and I'll be showing them today, tomorrow, and the day after, 1 video a day. For today's video, what we're going to do is showcase a little bit of Cathay roster review. So we actually get to see some in-game stats. Now, of course, everything is not finalized, so you could still see changes to numbers, and without seeing the numbers from a different faction, some of these stats might seem kind of irrelevant, looking at them in isolation, but they do provide some background in terms of how these units are designed, how they are going to be used, and what we can expect from the faction. And then after the roster is shown here, which is not the entire roster, it's only 12 units plus Miao Ying, the Dragon Lord, we are going to see a battle between the Cathay versus the Tzeentch. It'd be a land battle. And tomorrow we'll have a different battle, major settlement battle with the ogres attacking Cathay. And we'll also do a bit of a roster review of the ogre faction, which is the new pre-release or sort of the early adopter bonus. Basically, if you pre-order the game or purchase it, I believe in the first week when the game comes out, you'll receive 2 ogre lord as well as the entire faction that's playable with them. And then on the final day of the preview, I'll be doing a corn video attacking Cathay as well. We'll also do the review for that as well. So just changing things a bit with Cathay, being in the background and in the foreground for this one. All right, so let's just jump right into it. We are kind of in a pre-battle deployable area, looking at all the stat cards, starting with the Jade Warrior. I'll try to pause and continue here and there to highlight a few points, but you can see the unit card still very similar to what we're used to for most Total War game, in particular Warhammer 2, if you're used to it. But let's get started here. The person in control does a fairly good job of showcasing the units as well as the abilities. Formation attack for pretty much all the heavily armored Cathay units. They will try to stay in formation in melee. In general, the feeling I get with Cathay as a faction is you are pretty much encouraged to stay in a defensive position with your infantry, melee, and ranged mixed in. You don't have any cavalry per se, nothing that's on the ground. Most of your mobility comes from the air. You kind of have a strong land formation and some air support units and maybe some flanking Longmarch cavalry to help provide that sort of mobility. But mostly you're trying to stay still and take full advantage of your yin-yang harmony. Now, if you look at the unit cards at the bottom, at the artwork, you see on the top right corner of each unit, you either get the yang half, which is the white half of the yin-yang symbol, or the black yin half. And basically, if you're a melee unit, you have the yang half, and if you are a range unit, you have the yin half. And the purpose of this is you get bonuses for being next to a counterpart, right? If you're young, then you're hoping to be next to an yin unit. I think 35 meter is the required range, and you get different stat boost depending on what type you are. But formation attack also kind of plays into that in that you try to stay in your formations when you're under attack, basically things that might disrupt your formations. Giant monsters is a thing in Warhammer. You can hide in forest. Defensive stance, this is kind of a bonus for bracing essentially. If you're not moving, you get increased charge resistance in 2 phases, a little bit extra armor as well, just a passive bonus for standing still. As I mentioned, I think the entire Cathay theme is kind of to be pretty passive here. Then we have the Battle Harmony bonus for Young, which is the melee passive bonus. And you can see here, as long as you're within 35 meters of an in unit, you will get the bonus of 6 points of leadership and 6 points of melee defense. Now it says up to 12 points. And what this is there are certain units, such as your leader, that will provide harmony multipliers. And if that unit's nearby, you can get up to double the amount of your harmony bonus. So the key point here is if you have a range unit next to your melee unit, your melee unit's melee defense will go up by 6 points or 12 points if you have a leader nearby, or perhaps the Alchemist. Spellcasters also have certain percentage of harmony multipliers. I think the Alchemist here has 25%. So you get a little bit added bonus to your stats here. And it's the synergy between the two that's sort of themed for Cathay as a faction. And the unit itself is pretty decent, I guess, not knowing, relative values to everything else. 80 armor, it's on the high end. And the other stats here, looking at things in isolation, seems pretty decent as a defensive unit in general. 80 armor seems quite high. 64 leadership's not low either. Very slow, very poor melee attack. Defense is okay, weapon strength on the low side, and very low charge bonus because, with the defensive stance as one of your passives, you're probably not charging into too many things. Then we're going to see a variation of the same Jade Warrior. This one's going to be using the Halberd. So you have a pike weapon, essentially, an anti-large weapon, bonus damage towards large enemies, and you have more armor piercing damage. So you pretty much have an improved weapon here. Same armor, you can see the charge defense versus large. So when braced, this unit will negate the charge bonus of any large attacker. Now, Charge Reflect in Warhammer is a little bit different from Three Kingdoms in the sense that what essentially it does is it doubles your damage against charging enemies when you're braced, rather than the figurative or literal reflecting the enemy charge bonus back onto them. And they have the same defensive stance. It's pretty much the same unit with a different weapon designed to counter different type of enemy types. Alrighty, now moving on to a new unit, and while we have both of them hovered and selected, you can actually see the improvement in terms of the stat changes. You can see this unit has 120 extra health, 15 more armor, 8 point more leadership, same slow speed, but much better melee attack and melee defense, stronger weapon strength, which is a reflection of your melee attack as well because it takes into account of how much damage you're expected to do every 10 seconds. So if you have a higher melee attack, which is a better hit rate, you're definitely going to have more weapon strength. Also a little extra charge bonus. And in terms of their abilities, there's a small improvement as well. As you're going to see that their first one is the expert charge defense. So this will negate the charge bonus of any attacker. So this is sort of like charge negation in Total War Three Kingdoms, where you just will not take the enemy charge bonus damage. Very helpful. Formation attacks, hide, the same charge reflect, which doubles your damage, and the same passive for Yang. Mainly the 6 points of melee defense for these melee units. And also, since they only have 100, units comprising of the whole, regiment or group, you are going to have more health per single unit as well. So they're going to be a lot tankier. Now we get our first look at our cheapest in unit, I believe, the Peasant Archers. They can hide, they're cheap, thus expendable, which means no other units will lose leadership when around. And here, looking at the in-battle harmony bonus, you can see you still get the 6 points of leadership, but the bonus now is 12 points of reload skill that can go up to 24. So for range units, the bonus is going to be on their damage side, faster reload, and that's definitely a very positive bonus for what you want out of your range units. And just a quick look, almost no armor. These are peasant units that are expendable, very low leadership, also because they're expendable a little bit faster, probably due to the lower armor, and almost no melee stats whatsoever. Weak strength, weak charge bonus, 22 ammo, 140 range, and 15 missile strength. So the damage is not high either. I think these are just nice expendable units to have to kind of provide maybe the yin yang bonus and just another unit to showcase here. Then moving to something a tad fancier, back to Jade Warriors, this time with the crossbow variation. Once again, in the end, they have shields, and we paused it right when we hovered from the previous unit. So you can see they have less health, but because it's made of 90 units versus 120, each individual unit will have more health. You're back to the 80 armor, which seems to be the standard issue for Jade Warriors in general. High leadership, slow speed again. A little bit better melee capabilities, but you can see from the weapon damage stat, you're not dealing damage. So both the Peasant Warrior and the Jade Warrior Crossbowmen are going to be equally pathetic in melee, but you have much more range and a little bit extra missile strength. It's kind of weird that they don't have, say, more armor piercing capabilities compared to the archers, since you are using a crossbow, so I assume it'll pack more of a punch, but that is not the case here. And in terms of abilities, we still have hide. Defensive stance seems to be standard issue for all Jade Warriors, and the in bonus is still the same for all range units. Then we move on to Crane Gunners, a much cooler unit with the same in bonus and hide, but they have something called Shield Breaker. Now obviously they're using sort of a bolt action gun, you can call it a sniper rifle if you want, and they will have a shield breaking ability that reduces the enemy target's missile block chance by 24 points, and they seem to have armor piercing missiles, so I guess crossbows don't really count as armor piercing. You must move on to gunpowder weapons to get that armor piercing damage here. You can see their range is much higher, 275, and the missile strength is even stronger. Their weapon strength is still very, very poor at 24. Then moving on, we have the Fire Rain Rockets, one of the two variations of a rocket launcher or cannon available to the Cathay army. This one in particular has the 7 shots inside. It's a barrage of cannons or missiles being shot out. I think the total damage of all 7 is 622, not each individual one. Very long range at 360 and 12 ammo here. We can just ignore the melee stats. It's not relevant for these units here. And they have a crew following these 2 cattles pulling this cart. And they are siege attackers, and they have the same in bonus as well, which helps their reload skill, which I believe is going to be very helpful for units such as these. And then we see their bigger cousin, the Grand Cannon. So these units have a single cannon on it, not little missiles. They have less damage, 222. Most of it, I believe, is armor piercing, looking at the icon. 450 range, even farther, right? 360 to 450, a big jump actually right here. And this one seems to be probably more single target oriented versus kind of the splash you get from the 7 rockets from what we saw before. Then we move to probably my favorite unit, the Terracotta Sentinel. It's a monster unit. He's melee, so he's young, a little bit smaller than the stature version. He's armored, armor piercing damage, causes fear and terror actually. Siege attacker, stat wise, pretty impressive. 100 armor here, 100 leadership because he's unbreakable actually. He's faster than all the infantry, but I think compared to a lot of the units in the game, he is actually on the slow side, 48 speed. 65 melee attack, it's magic damage. I think that's what that symbol is. And we have 30 melee defense, so not the sturdiest, but a very good melee attack actually at 65. Weapon strength is at 530, very high, and a decent amount of charge bonus. It's unbreakable as we mentioned, and wounds. So most single entity units you will see in the game will have this wounds. And this is sort of a reward for the enemy or for you to take a single entity down to half health. Because what this will do is it will lower their stats, right? After you wound one of these single entity to half health, it's sort of a reward for saying that you have injured or damaged this unit to the point where he's less effective in battle. 20% less damage, 20% for both base and armor piercing damage, and minus 10% speed. And this is going to be pretty standard issue across all single entity units in the game. And I guess we can move to the Sky Junk. So Skyjunk is the variation of these flying war machines that have the cannon on the front of the ship. It has a sniper nest, so you have the same kind of a crane warrior or crane shot, whatever they're called, that are parked on top of the ship. They have the cannon in front, so the cannon damage is exactly the same as you expect on the land version, 622 with 360 range. No difference there. The ship itself, 80 armor, 80 leadership, is pretty good. It's slow. It's not a fast ship, 30 speed. There is almost no melee on this. It is an always flying unit. You cannot park this thing. And he has one extra ability. The Skyjunk has what's called the Skyjunk Bomb. 3 uses. It's sort of a bomb you drop from your ship to the units below. Has a 10 range, has some explosive damage, has some range damage. 6-second cooldown. Pretty cool. And you can see you can activate it in battle over there. It's always flying, cannot land. Eye of the Dragon, so it has forest spotting for your team, and also encourage. Since it's single unit, it also has wound, and it has the in bonus since it is ranged. Then we have the Sky Lantern, which is the little cousin version. This does not have cannons attached on the platform below, so you're only relying on the 4 gunners. But this is rewarded by the fact that your 4 gunners can fire while moving. So this is sort of your mobile sniping station, but it's not very fast. As I said, it's only 30 speed, and this variation has a lot less armor. Instead of 80, you only have 30, so you're not that tanky. You got to really keep this thing at the edge of the range to take advantage of it. At 275, it's the same range as the crane gunners we saw earlier. It's fairly nice. It's, fairly long range, 80 ammo. You have plenty of ammo up there. Keep shooting and keep kiting it on the edge of the battlefield to kind of just lay down armor-piercing rounds on the enemy. Then we have our look at the Alchemist. Now this is a wizard. So first you see the Harmony Amplifier, 25%. We mentioned this. The Amplifier will help you gain more than those 6 points of melee defense, or 6 points of leadership, or 12 points of reload skills. It will increase that number by 25% here. If you look at Miao Ying a bit later, she has 100%, and whoever has the most will be applied. So it's not stacking. It's more like this person boosts by 25%. If this is the only thing you have near you, then you get amplified by 25%. If you have someone with 100%, or if you have multiple people with 25%, you just take the highest value. And alchemists have 3 innate abilities in terms of elixirs. Now, I'm pretty sure most of these will come with a skill tree, so it's not kind of preset, but we're showcasing a custom battle, so it's kind of what we see here. There's the elixir of iron skin. This one increases armor. Not gonna talk too much about these. You can pause and check these out yourself. There is a 1-use elixir. Well, all the elixirs are 1 use to boost melee attack by 40. These are targeting your ally units. Then you have an enhanced attack, increasing your damage, base damage, and giving your damage a magic attack. Basically, go through different type of defenses. Some units have defense against magic attack or magic resistance wards, and some don't. And then on top of that, you have spells, which is on the right side. Now, if you're familiar with Warhammer, spell and winds of magic and different lores are probably not new to you. If you are new to Warhammer, then just know there's different schools of spells called lores, and this one's Lore of Metal, and this is a spell that does bombardment damage. It's pretty descriptive in terms of like how you should use it. Small, moderate area, so target single units. Single units means like your Jade Warriors is a single unit. Describe kind of the size of your spell, versus a single combatant. You're going to be wasting this because a lot of your AoE is going to miss, because if you're targeting a Terracotta Sentinel, for example, only a portion of your spell will hit them, whereas the rest will just hit the empty land around him. Strong versus single unit just means you're stronger against a cluster of units. And then Rust of Rats, reduce enemy armor, a Vortex ability, augment armor, more damage ability, different hexes, encourage for nearby units. The unit can also hide. You mastery of elemental winds. If you get more wizards in your army, they can amplify each other. The winds of magic is your currency, right? You spend this to cast your spells. So aside from cooldowns, you have to have enough winds to actually cast your spells. And, more wizards also increase the power of your spells as well. Wounds, because it's a single entity unit again. And we have metal shifting, which I think is just the Lore of Metal passive. It's whenever you're casting, you get this added bonus for yourself. Each school of magic or lore of magic will have some sort of bonus like this. And missile resistance by 15%. It's a pretty strong single unit. Weapon strength 300, melee attack is magic damage. But nothing compares to our leader. Our leader, Miao, the Storm Dragon, Spellcaster Wizard. The Harmony Amplifier is 100% high as it can be. It'll double all the bonuses you saw earlier. She's armored. Good, I guess. Melee Expert, and also can transform into Dragon, which is the spell right above her head. 30-second cooldown right now. You can only start counting down once you start the battle. And you can transform into your Dragon form, which is flying, which have higher melee damage, so your weapon strength, melee attack will all go up. I believe it's more armored than your current variant. We'll get to see it. And also you are faster while you are a dragon, but you do lose melee defense when you are dragon form. Maybe you have less armor. Actually, I'm not sure. I think you trade defense for offense as a dragon. You have access to the same exact spells. So while the spell arrangement on the right is still the same, it's a different set of spells. Now it's Miao Ying's spells, and they all use the same pool of winds of magic. And we're not going to go over all of these actually. There's a transformation, there's an augmentation, and the spells are going to vary depending on like what skills you pick on her skill tree. The animations, right off the bat, you see the armor did jump, right, from 70 to 100. Melee attack actually dipped a bit. I think it was 65, now it's 60. Speed went way up, went from 40 something I believe to 80. Melee defense dipped. I think melee attack and melee defense both dipped, but weapon strength went way up. So you know that because weapon strength is a reflection of your melee attack, which is your hit rate over 10 seconds, your actual raw damage went up by a lot. And you still kept the same exact spell as you can see on both sides of the bottom of the panel. And now you're a flying dragon that has, more physical capabilities and melee capabilities and get into the thick of the fighting. And of course, you can transform back. There's just a cooldown for it. And that's really all the units we're going to see here in this video. And we're going to jump into an actual battle played out by the same CA staff. So we're going to comment over it. I'm not going to pause anymore for the battle. It's against Tzeentch. It might seem a little chaotic with all the spells going around, but I'll try to cover as much as I can on screen here. Alrighty, so before we jump in, let's just go over what units we have, right? We have 3 Jade Warriors with sword, 3 Jade Warriors with crossbow, 2 Jade Warrior with a halberd weapon, 2 Crane Gunners, a Wuxing cart, which we didn't get to see earlier. It's a spell casting single unit cart. You have this big orb that suck in magical powers, pulled by oxen carts. You can even put an Alchemist inside, I believe. It's a single target. 3 of those Celestial Guards, 2 of the Fire Rocket variant of the cannon, 1 Sky Junk, which is the premium version, and 2 Terracotta Sentinels, plus Miao Ying as our leader, which I believe is going to go into dragon form pretty quick. And across the field is an army of Tzeentch led by Carlos Fate Weaver and a few of his more elite single units. I believe there is a Soul Grinder and another spellcaster. Well, we'll see. And we get to deploy first, so let's set things up. This is a open land battle. Tomorrow's video will be a major settlement fight, and then the following day will be a minor settlement fight just to showcase different things. You can see how oppressive the range is on these cannons. They're actually quite impressive. As someone who really liked range units, pretty much in love with these units. And you see you want to kind of mix your melee with your range to give the bonuses. 35 range is not a lot. So you kind of need to put units not just in the front, but also a few in the on the left and right flanks, and maybe even the rear as well. Especially since Tzeentch has a lot of flying units, so they're gonna slip through pretty easily. Alright, looks good. Let's get started here. And it's going to be quite colorful. I mean, Warhammer is going to be quite colorful with all the spells, especially with these Chaos factions. You can see that's a shot from your Sky Junk, which I believe just will have more range because it's elevated. It's still 360, but elevation does matter a little bit, and you can see the cannons. It's also deployed a little bit more forward. It's massive amount of, coverage, but it's pretty scattered, as we mentioned. 622 damage scattered across these 7 shots, so each one's not going to be, as damaging. But it's pretty good when you have enemies clumped up like this. To just pound the positions. Very satisfying. And you can even see a couple of the crane gunner shots from the Sky Junk as well coming out. I don't think we'll get to see one of the bombs. Not everything will get used. And 30 seconds up, time to change to our dragon form, because we don't really have a lot of aerial answers here, and as we mentioned, Tzeentch has a lot of flying units, so we're getting flanked on the left by it. Although I'm kind of hesitant to think about moving the leader out right now, because by standing there, she provides the double reload bonus for the in harmony. Oh, she's casting spells. Dragon Claws, disrupting formations, dealing damage. Dives into melee. Boosts the armor of our front line there. Getting flanked on the right as well, as you can see. They have some sort of cavalry units, and those flying units are all over the place, actually. And Carlos here himself lands. Because there's so many, as you can see, different flying options, they can come out and pick out your range, units from behind pretty easily, which is rather difficult to deal with. And with how you want the bonuses, oh, those missiles. Right, with how you want bonuses between Yin and Yang, you're going to be pretty cramped as, Cathay, and there's going to be a lot of spells that can really hurt you. We're going to see a couple of Tzeentch spells in a second here. Pretty much everything pink and blue is from Tzeentch, right? That's kind of how you can tell. All those Discate Riders. And a lot of our range units are routing. They're going to need to regroup because these flying units just have come in to harass our range. Yes, there is one of those spellcasters we're trying to solo over here. Oh, here comes some enemy spells, I believe. Right there. That's not ours, right? Color scheme, that's not ours. We're getting bombarded. Just imagine that on our front line. Our Sky Junk's also getting picked off by a lot of the pink horrors, I think. Yeah, for a second here, things don't look so well for us, as we're getting kind of kited out by the enemy range. But Miao Ying's going to move in on them. And most of the unit that routed early on is going to actually rally back, and we should be able to use them. Our front line is taking a beating, but most of them are still pretty healthy, except for these like Celestial Dragon Guards. You can see these spells being thrown out at us from the side. Yeah, we have quite a few units that bounce back that's not being used right now, but it's chaotic. Understandable. Another one of those Dragon Claws. The Sky Junk really should come back and just do a bombardment. Really want to see what it actually looks like, but keeping it safe, you can see those are the shots from the crane gunners on top of the platform. I mean, these are nice too.
Praise the dragon, sent by dragons. Crossbowmen, move as wind.
Yeah, our crossbowmen will eventually pick off those pink horrors on the side, and most of these will bounce back, so that we can actually throw them back in as well.
Dragon guard.
And Miao Ying's still over half health, so we still haven't got the wounded yet. Terracotta is still going super strong.
Wind and fire! Fight as one!
Alright, you can see the couple crossbow and the crane gunners in the back laying down fire against these pink horrors.
Crossbows! Restore order!
Defenders of Cathay!
Another round of spells on our crossbow. It does hurt. Alright, you can see the health go down. Probably lost like 30 men right there. Ooh, way more. Oh my god, let's keep going. We went from like 60 something to like 24. Plus all the damage on them.
Dragon Guard!
Alright, but most of their range units are routing now. It's just a couple of really tough ones. And we have our, you know, single entity units fighting them right here. Our Terracotta Sentinels. The one in the back over there is just chilling. But that's fine. Alright, get those crossbow units. Got one cannon left over there. Ah, here's the Wuxing cart. So they can cast the spell. And I have no idea what the spell does because we didn't get to see it in the roster review, but as you can see, it's a lightning one. It does blow up that group. And now we're down to just a couple of elite enemies. I think 3 actually. Soul Grinder is here somewhere. There it is. Soul Grinder versus Terracotta Sentinels. Spellcaster down. Soul Grinder down. And we just have Kairos himself. And down he goes as well. And it's a Pyrrhic victory. Or it should be. As long as we click end battle. It was not pretty, but we came through here. And that's, you know, one of the first, you know, game footage we actually saw. Everything, of course, is, you know, still in development. And eager to see more. We're going to see a major settlement tomorrow, as we mentioned. And we're going to see a minor one with the Ogres, Khorne, both fighting Cathay, because it's going to be interesting to see how the AI use Cathay as well, especially with the Harmony bonus being a major thing. So hopefully you guys enjoy this one, and I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye.